Hi, I'm Megan Schwendinger, and this is my new student dialogue vlog as part of CU 1000. I attended the new student dialogue, It's Not Funny and It's Never Okay, a dialogue on rape culture. I picked this dialogue for a couple different reasons. My big issue is that I personally don't like how today's society overuses the word rape. I don't think it's ever appropriate to say things like, oh, well, this team's going to get raped next week because they're just so inferior to them. It's disgusting and disturbing. So ever since my dialogue, I've been a lot more aware of the conversations here and the things people say without even giving them a second thought. I don't think people consider the fact that something they say could be extremely hurtful to somebody else who's just happened to overhear that piece of their conversation in the same vicinity. In light of the recent accusations against that particular Florida State player, I've been even more aware of some of my classmates' opinions here at Clemson. I've heard people say that the only reason that this victim is coming forward is because she wants attention, or that she felt bad about it later, and I think that's horrible. And then I heard somebody say the other day that, oh, the football player wouldn't have had to rape her because a football player can always get it. And I think that's kind of disturbing to think about too, is that people don't want to blame the football player because he's a football player. It's gross, and it makes it seem like rape's okay if you're a certain person in society. I haven't heard all the details on this particular case, but I don't think it's ever the victim's fault. It's kind of disturbing to think about how people today pin the blame on the victim, saying that she wants attention, or not even she, it could be a he. That was one point that was raised in my dialogue, was that guys can get raped too, and ever since then I've been thinking about that a lot, and it's kind of sad that I never thought about that before. So I think that was one thing that the dialogue was good at, was opening my eyes up to the world around me and making me see that, rape's not just when a guy can attack a girl. It can be a girl attacking a girl, and it can be a guy getting raped from either a guy or a girl. And that was one thing that I saw in Aspire after I attended the new student dialogue. There was a guy talking, and he was like, well, what do you do if the girl wants it but you don't? And I happened to be sitting at a table full of guys because that was the way that we were split up, and all of the guys around me started laughing at this guy, and he kind of shrank back and fell into his seat and didn't really talk much for the rest of the thing. And it probably made him feel really terrible about it, just because the guys around me were laughing at him for thinking that, oh, well, he doesn't want sex and he's a guy, there must be something wrong with him. And that was kind of terrible to think about. So with my particular dialogue, I don't think we achieved full dialogue potential just because there were certain strong voices who kept talking and talking and talking and wouldn't let other people, like myself, who were more reserved, get their opinions in. And I mean, I do realize that I was more reserved and I kind of sat back and was more quiet. But I think that the facilitators could have done a better job at making sure everybody's voice was heard, because I thought that was the whole point of the dialogue, was to make sure that everybody's heard, not just 3 or 4 people who were talking. Our group was really awkward because it was about 16 or 17 of us, and it was very female dominated, which I think was one of the problems with it. I mean, I know that there's no way to control whether a certain amount of girls signs up for it or a certain amount of guys, but I do feel like that it would have been better if we'd have had a more even ratio of girls to guys, because then we could have gotten more male opinions. Because the girls kept running the show, there were 4 or 5 girls who just kept talking and talking, like it was a conversation between the 4 or 5 of them, and everybody else was just observing the conversation. And I didn't think that was the point of the dialogue. My facilitators did a pretty good job. They started and they seemed kind of intimidating at first, but then they got more personable and they started talking more. And through the dialogue, I found out that my female facilitator, she had been sexually assaulted, and that was surprising to me, to look at her and realize that, well, she looks just like me. This could happen to anybody. I think that was one of the things that hit me hard, was that it's not just something you see on TV. It's not just in big cities. It can happen anywhere. I mean, it happened to her, so that could have been me. I think dialogue is a good idea to have. I just think it needs to be executed better as far as CU 1000 goes. I think it's a good idea for all new students to have to do here at Clemson. But, like I said, it needs to be executed better. Like, I think there could have been... I know the point of dialogues is to have an open conversation, but I do feel like it needed a little bit more of control